Sarah Martinez adjusted her protective glasses one more time before stepping into Lane 7 at the military training facility. The morning sun cast long shadows across the concrete floor as she set down her gear bag with practiced efficiency. Around her, the familiar sounds of preparation filled the air, the metallic click of magazines being loaded, the rustle of equipment being arranged, and the low murmur of conversations between fellow trainees. At 26, Sarah had been working as a civilian contractor for the Department of Defense for 3 years. Her job involved analyzing ballistics data and weapons performance, but today was different. Today was her quarterly firearms qualification, a requirement that always made her stomach flutter with nervous energy. Despite her technical expertise with weapon systems, actual shooting was still something that challenged her. The firing range at Camp Pendleton was intimidating even on quiet days. Today, it buzzed with activity as various military units conducted their own training exercises. Sarah noticed a group of Navy personnel setting up at the far end of the range, their movements precise and coordinated. She recognized the confident bearing of Special Operations Forces immediately. These weren't regular sailors. "First time here?" asked a friendly voice beside her. Sarah turned to see a Marine sergeant organizing his equipment at the adjacent lane. His name tape read Rodriguez, and his relaxed demeanor put her slightly more at ease. "No, but I still get nervous every time," Sarah admitted, checking her Glock 19 one final time. "I'm more comfortable behind a computer analyzing this stuff than actually using it." Rodriguez chuckled. "That's honest. Most people won't admit when they're nervous. What's your background?" "Ballistics analysis for DoD contractors. I spend my days looking at bullet trajectories and impact patterns, but putting that knowledge into practice is different," she explained while adjusting her stance. The range safety officer's voice boomed across the facility, calling for attention. "All shooters, prepare for the 50-yard precision stage. You'll have 20 rounds to establish your baseline. Focus on fundamentals, sight alignment, trigger control, and follow-through." Sarah's hands were slightly damp as she loaded her magazine. She had done this dozens of times, but something about the formal atmosphere always affected her. The presence of the Navy team at the other end didn't help her confidence. She could see them moving with the kind of fluid efficiency that came from years of intensive training. The whistle blew, signaling the start of the exercise. Sarah raised her weapon, found her sight picture, and began her careful sequence. Breathe, aim, squeeze, follow through. The first shot felt good, the recoil familiar and controlled. She continued methodically, trying to block out everything except the fundamentals her instructors had drilled into her. Shot after shot, she maintained her rhythm. The target seemed to be cooperating, and she felt her initial nervousness beginning to fade. Her years of studying ballistics had given her a theoretical understanding that was finally translating into practical skill. Each trigger pull felt more natural than the last. When the whistle signaled the end of the first stage, Sarah lowered her weapon and waited for the all-clear to check targets. Her hands were steadier now, and she felt a small surge of confidence. The morning was warming up, and she shrugged off her light jacket, revealing her contractor identification badge and the small American flag patch she wore on her sleeve. "Not bad for a desk jockey," Rodriguez commented as they walked downrange together. His tone was encouraging rather than mocking. "You've got steady hands." Sarah's target showed a respectable grouping. Not perfect, but significantly better than her previous attempts. Most of her shots clustered around the center rings, with only 2 strays outside the scoring zone. "Better than last quarter," she said, genuinely pleased with the improvement. As they returned to the firing line, Sarah noticed one of the Navy personnel watching her setup. He was older than the others, probably in his 40s, with the kind of weathered face that spoke of years spent in challenging environments. His uniform was different too. She could see the distinctive trident insignia that marked him as a Navy SEAL. The second stage was announced. Rapid fire at 25 yards. This was always Sarah's most challenging part. The pressure to shoot quickly while maintaining accuracy often caused her to rush and lose focus. She loaded a fresh magazine and tried to center herself mentally. "Remember, speed comes from smooth technique, not from rushing," Rodriguez offered quietly. "You've got good fundamentals. Trust them." The whistle blew again. and immediately the range erupted in gunfire. Sarah forced herself to maintain her rhythm despite the pressure. Quick sight picture, controlled trigger press, immediate follow-up. The target seemed smaller at this distance, and the time pressure made everything feel more intense. Her shots were coming faster now, but she fought to maintain control. Muscle memory was taking over, and she found herself falling into the zone that athletes often described. Everything else faded away except the target, the sight picture, and the trigger. When the firing stopped, Sarah realized she had actually finished with time to spare. Her magazine was empty, but she didn't feel the rushed panic she usually experienced during timed exercises. Something had clicked during those few minutes of rapid fire. The SEAL commander she had noticed earlier was now standing directly behind her lane, though she didn't realize it yet. He had been watching her technique throughout the second stage, noting the improvement in her form and the growing confidence in her movements. "Impressive recovery," he said quietly, causing Sarah to turn around in surprise. Up close, she could see the command insignia on his collar and the multiple deployment ribbons on his chest. This wasn't just any SEAL. This was someone with serious operational experience. "Thank you, sir," Sarah replied, not sure of the proper protocol for addressing a SEAL officer as a civilian contractor. "I'm still learning. Mind if I ask what your background is?" His question was casual, but Sarah sensed genuine interest rather than mere politeness. "Ballistics analysis, sir. I work with the technical side of weapons systems, but practical shooting is still challenging for me." She gestured toward her target, which showed marked improvement from her first attempt. The commander nodded thoughtfully. "Technical knowledge is valuable, but translating theory into practice takes dedication. How long have you been working on your shooting?" "About 2 years seriously, sir. It's required for my security clearance level, but I've started to actually enjoy it." Sarah was surprised by her own honesty. Something about this man's demeanor invited straight answers. The final stage was announced: precision shooting at 100 yards. This was the test that separated casual shooters from serious marksmen. Sarah felt her earlier confidence wavering as she considered the distance and the smaller target. The morning breeze had picked up slightly, adding another variable to calculate. As she prepared for the final challenge, Sarah didn't notice that word had quietly spread among the Navy team about the civilian contractor who was showing unexpected skill. Several of them had paused their own training to observe, curious about the woman who had caught their commander's attention. The stage was set for what would become a defining moment in Sarah's shooting career, though she had no way of knowing it yet. She simply focused on loading her final magazine and preparing for the most difficult test of the day. The 100-yard line felt like a completely different world. The targets appeared almost impossibly small from this distance, and Sarah found herself second-guessing everything she thought she knew about shooting. The SEAL commander had moved to an observation position where he could watch multiple lanes, but she could sense his attention still focused in her direction. "This is where it gets interesting," Rodriguez commented as he adjusted his own equipment. "Distance shooting separates the technical shooters from the instinctive ones. You've got the technical background. Now let's see if you can apply it." Sarah nodded, trying to remember everything she knew about long-range ballistics. Wind speed, bullet drop, atmospheric pressure, all the factors she calculated daily in her computer models were suddenly real variables affecting her performance. She checked the wind flags along the range and estimated the breeze at about 5 miles per hour, quartering from the left. The SEAL team had finished their own exercises and several members gathered near the observation area. Sarah caught glimpses of them in her peripheral vision, but forced herself to focus on her preparation. She couldn't afford to be distracted by the audience, no matter how impressive their credentials. "Shooters, you have 15 rounds for record," announced the range safety officer. "This is a slow-fire precision exercise. Take your time, focus on fundamentals, and make every shot count." Sarah settled into her shooting position, adjusting her stance for maximum stability. The prone position felt natural after years of practice, and she worked to control her breathing and heart rate. Through her scope, the target looked more manageable, but she knew that small movements would be magnified at this distance. Her first shot surprised her with its clean break. The trigger seemed to fire itself at the perfect moment, and she felt the satisfying thump of good recoil management. She worked the bolt smoothly, and settled back into position for shot number 2. As she continued through her string of fire, Sarah began to notice something remarkable happening. Each shot felt better than the last, and she was experiencing the kind of flow state she had only read about in sports psychology books. Her technical knowledge was seamlessly integrating with her physical execution. The SEAL commander watched with growing interest as Sarah's technique evolved during the exercise. He had seen thousands of shooters over his career, and he recognized the signs of someone making a breakthrough. Her movements were becoming more fluid, more confident, and more precise with each repetition. "Who is that contractor?" asked one of his team members, a chief petty officer with sniper qualifications. "Ballistics analyst," the commander replied quietly. "Been watching her progress through the stages. She's applying textbook technique, but there's something more developing there." Shot after shot, Sarah continued her careful rhythm. She found herself making tiny adjustments for wind and elevation almost instinctively, her theoretical knowledge translating into practical corrections. The scope picture seemed clearer, the trigger control more natural, and the follow-through more automatic. Rodriguez, shooting in the lane beside her, was impressed by what he was witnessing. Sarah had transformed from a nervous contractor into a focused marksman over the course of just a few exercises. Her breathing was controlled, her movements deliberate, and her concentration total. When the final shot broke, Sarah knew it was good even before she saw the result. The sight picture had been perfect, the trigger break clean, and the follow-through natural. She set down her rifle and realized her hands weren't shaking anymore. In fact, she felt more confident than she had all morning. The walk to check targets felt longer than usual. Sarah knew she had shot well, but she wasn't prepared for what she found downrange. Her target showed a grouping that would have been impressive for an experienced competitive shooter, let alone a civilian contractor doing quarterly qualification. 15 shots clustered in a group smaller than a softball, with the majority concentrated in the high-scoring rings. 2 shots had found the exact center of the target, and the worst shot was still well within the acceptable zone. It was, by any measure, exceptional shooting. "Outstanding work," Rodriguez said, genuinely impressed. "That's some of the best shooting I've seen from a non-military person. You should be proud of that target." As they walked back toward the firing line, Sarah noticed the SEAL team gathering their equipment. Their training session appeared to be concluding, but several of them lingered near the observation area. She wondered if they had been watching her performance, but tried not to let the thought affect her growing confidence. The range safety officer was collecting targets and recording scores when the SEAL commander approached the scoring area. He asked to see several targets, including Sarah's, and spent a few moments studying the results. His expression revealed nothing, but Sarah noticed he spent more time examining her target than the others. "Martinez, right?" the commander said, approaching Sarah as she packed her equipment. "I've been watching your progression through the exercises today. That was impressive shooting, especially considering your background." "Thank you, sir. I've been working hard to improve my practical skills to match my theoretical knowledge." Sarah wasn't sure why this particular compliment meant so much to her, but she felt a surge of pride at the recognition from someone of his caliber. "Mind if I ask what your goal is with shooting? Just qualification, or are you interested in developing further?" His question seemed casual, but Sarah sensed there might be more behind it. "I started because it was required, but I've discovered I really enjoy the challenge. There's something satisfying about applying physics and mathematics to real-world performance." She paused, then added, "I'd like to continue improving, but I'm not sure what opportunities exist for civilian contractors." The commander nodded thoughtfully. "There are actually several programs that might interest you. Competition shooting, advanced training courses, even some specialized roles that combine technical expertise with practical skills." As their conversation continued, Sarah became aware that other members of the SEAL team were listening. She felt slightly intimidated by their presence, but the commander's encouraging tone helped her maintain confidence. These were among the most elite warriors in the world, yet they seemed genuinely interested in her development as a shooter. "The technical foundation you have is actually quite valuable," continued the commander. "Most shooters develop through repetition and experience, but understanding the science behind what you're doing gives you advantages in problem-solving and adaptation." Sarah felt a warmth spreading through her chest at the recognition. She had always been proud of her analytical work, but having her practical skills acknowledged by someone of this caliber was unexpectedly meaningful. The morning's training session was winding down, and personnel began cleaning their equipment and preparing to leave. Sarah packed her gear methodically, her mind still processing the remarkable improvement she had demonstrated. From nervous contractor to confident marksman in the span of a few hours, it felt almost surreal. As she prepared to leave the range, Sarah didn't yet realize that her performance had sparked a conversation among the SEAL team about potential opportunities. The commander was already considering how her unique combination of technical expertise and developing practical skills might fit into certain specialized roles. The stage was set for an encounter that would change Sarah's understanding of her own potential and open doors she hadn't even known existed. The equipment cleanup process was nearly complete when the SEAL commander approached Sarah one final time. She was carefully storing her rifle in its case, still processing the morning's unexpected success. Her hands moved with new confidence as she organized her gear, a stark contrast to the nervous energy she had felt just hours earlier. "Martinez, I'd like to discuss something with you before you leave," the commander said quietly. "Do you have a few minutes?" Sarah looked up, surprised by the serious tone in his voice. Around them, the range was gradually emptying as various training groups finished their exercises and departed. The SEAL team had completed their own equipment maintenance but seemed in no hurry to leave. "Of course, sir," Sarah replied, closing her rifle case and giving him her full attention. The commander gestured toward a quiet area near the range office where they could speak privately. As they walked, Sarah noticed that several of his team members were watching the interaction with apparent interest, though they maintained respectful distance. "What you accomplished today was exceptional," he began, once they had stepped away from the main activity. "I've been observing shooters for over 20 years, and I can recognize when someone makes a genuine breakthrough. That wasn't just good shooting. That was the emergence of real skill." Sarah felt her cheeks flush with pride. "Thank you, sir. It felt different today, like everything just started clicking together." "The technical foundation you bring to shooting is rare," the commander continued. "Most of us learn through repetition and experience, gradually building muscle memory and instinct. But you're applying scientific principles in real time, making calculated adjustments based on environmental factors. That's a valuable capability." He paused, seeming to consider his next words carefully. "There are opportunities in our community for people with your unique combination of skills. Technical expertise paired with developing practical ability opens doors to specialized roles." Sarah's pulse quickened. She had never considered that her background might be valuable to special operations units. "What kind of opportunities, sir?" "Advisory positions, technical consulting, specialized training programs. The military increasingly needs people who can bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application." His tone was measured but encouraging. "Your performance today suggests you have the potential for much more advanced training." The conversation was interrupted by the approach of the chief petty officer Sarah had noticed earlier. His bearing was respectful but confident as he joined them. "Commander, if I may," the chief said, "I've been watching Ms. Martinez's progression today as well. Her fundamentals are solid, and her improvement curve is remarkable. With the right advanced training, she could develop into an exceptional long-range shooter." Sarah was stunned. These elite operators were discussing her potential as if she might actually belong in their world. The nervous contractor who had arrived that morning felt like a different person entirely. "Chief Rodriguez is one of our best instructors," the commander explained to Sarah. "His assessment carries significant weight. The question is whether you're interested in pursuing advanced development." The weight of the moment settled on Sarah's shoulders. This was clearly more than casual encouragement. They were offering her a path toward capabilities she had never imagined possessing. Her mind raced through the implications and possibilities. "I'm definitely interested, sir," she said, surprised by the firmness in her own voice. "I'd like to learn how far I can develop these skills." The commander nodded approvingly. "There are several programs that might suit your background. Advanced marksmanship courses, technical consulting positions, even opportunities to work directly with special operations units on equipment development and testing." He reached into his pocket and produced a business card. "My contact information. Give me a call next week and we'll discuss specific opportunities. There's also a civilian marksmanship program that works closely with our units. You might find it interesting. Sarah accepted the card with hands that trembled slightly. The simple piece of paper represented possibilities she had never dared to consider. Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you. I don't believe you will, the commander replied with a slight smile. Today proved you have the foundation and the mindset for advanced development. The rest is just training and experience. As their conversation concluded, the commander did something that surprised everyone present. He stepped back slightly, brought himself to attention, and rendered a crisp military salute. It was subtle, lasting only a moment, but unmistakably respectful. Well done today, Martinez. You've earned recognition for exceptional performance under pressure. Sarah was momentarily frozen, unsure how to respond. She was a civilian contractor, not military personnel, but the gesture was clearly one of professional respect. After a moment's hesitation, she returned the salute as best she could, her movements careful and sincere. The exchange lasted only seconds, but Sarah felt its significance deeply. This wasn't just acknowledgement of good shooting. It was recognition from one of the military's most elite communities that she had demonstrated something special. Rodriguez approached as the commander departed, his expression warm with approval. That was impressive to witness, he said quietly. The commander doesn't offer that kind of recognition lightly. You should feel proud of what you accomplished today. I'm still processing it all, Sarah admitted. This morning I was just trying to get through qualification, and now you're being recruited by Special Operations, Rodriguez finished with a grin. That's quite a morning's work. Take some time to think about the opportunities, but don't overthink it. You've proven you have the capability. The rest is just deciding how far you want to develop it. As Sarah gathered her remaining equipment, she noticed several other personnel had witnessed the commander's salute. Word would spread quickly through the military community about the civilian contractor who had earned special recognition from a SEAL commander. The reputation would precede her at future training events. The drive home gave Sarah time to reflect on the morning's extraordinary developments. She had arrived at the range as a nervous analyst hoping to maintain her qualification scores. She was leaving with recognition from elite operators and invitations to pursue advanced training she had never imagined possible. The business card sat on her passenger seat, a tangible reminder that the morning's events had been real. In just a few hours, her understanding of her own potential had been completely transformed. The quiet salute from the SEAL commander would remain one of the most meaningful moments of her career. That evening, Sarah called her parents to share the news. Her father, a retired Army sergeant, listened with growing amazement as she described the day's events. When she mentioned the commander's salute, there was a long pause before he spoke. Honey, that's not just recognition. That's respect from the very top level of our military. Whatever you decide about these opportunities, know that you've already achieved something remarkable. The story of Sarah Martinez's transformation from nervous contractor to recognized marksman would be told and retold in military circles. But for Sarah herself, it was just the beginning of a journey toward capabilities she was only starting to discover. The quiet salute had been more than a gesture. It was an invitation to join a community of excellence that she was finally ready to embrace.